Okay, Martin, want to wrap up today's talk? Okay, we've talked about swine flu, flu vaccine.
Yeah.
We've talked about common purpose, of course. We've touched on the human perspective and ways around people sort of fending for themselves now, which is a lot of it out there. You go around the country doing talks on different radio stations, etc. You've got your own site again. Sorry, John, the site is
whynot.org.uk.
Why not? .uk?
.org.uk.
.org.uk, beg your pardon.
And dwpcorruption.co.uk.
Okay, so that's all in place and the information is out there for everybody. What we need to do now is look at an action plan to move, because I feel it's time now that all this talking that's geared up and the information is there for people. People need to start piecing this together and moving forward, okay, for themselves. So firstly, in my mind, it's no to the swine flu. Firstly, we don't go anywhere near the swine flu. Then we need to start looking at the position that you're coming from with the DWP and the common purpose and start acting against that.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so
then we need to look at our own finance, the banks, etc. And if we can't make money, we need to know how we can save it. And you know, just by saving it is going to solve the problem that you've got. And you know, and you have to ask yourself the question, when you look at your bank loan, do you really need to be paying that bank loan? Should you be paying it? Because a lot of the time, definitely not. And if that bank loan is before April 2007, April the 30th, 2007, it's a guaranteed fact that they have not got the signature for that bank loan, and the 1974 Credit Consumer Act can kick in.
And also on that, there's a point that I've come across as well, is you'd be amazed, and this is true, how many companies don't actually keep the paperwork to the loans. So if you just do the simple fact of asking, can I see, I've lost my copy of the loan agreement, can you send it to me? A lot of them don't even have the paperwork.
See, it's as simple as a few template letters. You put that template letter together, and then after that, once you've got the 12 plus 2 days, 14 days for these people to provide the 1974 Credit Consumer Act agreement to you, once that's out of the way, it's called breached.
Right.
So they have breached the requirements. Once they have breached the requirements, they can't come back to you 2 years up the road and say we found it, or we want you to apply for it again. If you volunteer to apply for it, that's your wrongdoing. Yeah. You haven't got to.
Okay.
Because you'll probably get a copy of an agreement with a forged signature on.
Right, okay. Right, and
so that's why you don't do it.
Don't do it that way. Right. First things first, for people, let's say, I won't say baby steps, but for people to move on and start acting for themselves now, is to stop with the TV license, because that's an easy one to start with.
Well, I think you've got to put them in categories that are important. The first thing is, let's look at the DWP medicals that we've spoke about. Yeah. If anybody has had a medical and it's been bad news on that medical, you've got to at least now, you owe it to yourself, go and question the person's qualifications who's obviously give a diagnosis on you.
Okay.
And if he hasn't got the qualifications, then I'm afraid you've got to insist on going back and having another medical with somebody that has.
Which is what you did.
Which is what you do.
Okay.
You've got to have a second opinion.
Right. After that, what we need to look at here are your utility bills.
Again, you can look at accepted for value, where that's concerned, or go on the Freeman sites. There's loads and loads of ideas kicked about there that can show you how to do this. Again, with template letters, same as CPN parking charge notices. You know, that again is something that you do not have to pay, not even with the councils, and you know, you have to be as clever as what they are.
Yeah, so everything's there for you. Again, with every kind of bill that you feel that you're getting, look at it first before you go anywhere near it. The point I made earlier before was with the council tax. Now, we found out by an insider, who won't tell us where, but he's basically got in the council, and he's found out that you get your council tax bill, as you know, every year, and they want it paid in all in one go.
Yep.
Okay. They know that people can't do that, most people, so they give you your payment method of monthly, okay, which your 10 payments. It transpires if you don't pay your first payment, and you probably know this, Martin, if you don't pay your first payment, you're not eligible to pay the rest of that because of the loophole that they've actually put themselves in. So you don't, by not paying that first payment, you're not agreeing to the terms of going onto a method of paying each month, therefore you don't pay your council tax. Now, of course, these things are never as black and white as that, but the basic principle is there, and you just need to look into this a bit further.
And one other point on that, anybody that's been forced into court via the council tax system, what you must remember is when you get into that court, 90% out of 100 is not a proper judge, and he hasn't got an oath. So therefore, if you ask to see the judge's oath and he can't provide one, the case is dismissed. He has to leave the bench. And also, the second point is, if you ask for indemnity insurance and he hasn't got the indemnity insurance, he can be squashed.
Okay.
He can walk out the court.
There's actually a video going around now, and you've probably seen that, of a chap with the freeman representing him, and he goes into the court and says, "May I see the oath?" And they can't. They have no comeback. They couldn't do, and it basically.
Do you know who these judges are?
No.
Right, they're partners in solicitors.
Okay.
Susan Dearden from Rag & Co Solicitors, who I've had my problem with, she is now a judge, and she has not got oath of office because she's a partner.
So they're just solicitors?
Just solicitors.
Right.
So they've got no credibility whatsoever. They might as well wear a big red nose.
Instead of a silly wig and everything else.
Instead of a silly wig and a bit of velvet on the shoulders.
Yeah. I mean, that just says it all. I mean, this is the information. When you realise what you are dealing with, because everyone thinks of a judge and a court, etc., it's nowhere near as frightening. It's the fear of the unknown. There's a site called Get Out of Debt Free, a chap called John Whittaker who's doing some, do you know John Whittaker?
Yeah.
I've come across him, he's just got his site up and running with regards to the freeman. It's inspiring work on there as well. Debtfreeman.org as well, my site, which should be up and running in the next couple of weeks. So at each stage, if you go to Martin's site, there are tools there to get you, if we all come together to go against the system.
Not only that, it's a lot of fun while you're doing it. It's nice to know that you've got the backup and the support of your fellow man, and that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm afraid it has got to the stage, it is us and them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how it is.
Yeah. At no point do any of these governments represent or look after the interests of the common.
They're not there. They're not there for the public.
No.
They're there for self-funding their own lifestyles.
Yeah. And they're having a bloody good time.
And they're having a good time of it.
The long and short of it all to me is, and this is the way I said it, and the fun side of it is, if you just sit back and think that, you know, there could be a situation, and it's not too far away, where we could actually be all self-sufficient without having to use banks and not have to work 40, 50 hours a week and then still have no money, as we said earlier, and all be there for each other. We could be all out of this system. You know, it's take long, does it?
It's fascinating because it's now backfiring on them.
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard this week that there are going to be redundancies in the schools with teachers. They're getting rid of X amount of coppers off the streets.
Yeah.
Catch you later.
Thanks for your time.